Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Daniel Zellhuber versus Lando Vannata. Zellhuber's 12-1, 23 years old, got 4 inches of height and 6 inches of reach on 31-year-old Lando Vannata, who's got a record of 12-6-2. It's not a pretty record, but every one of those blemishes comes inside the UFC. The 2 draws to Frevola and Bobby Green, and the 6 losses. 2 via submission, 1 to Tony Ferguson in his debut, and 1 in his last fight to Charles Jourdain with the guillotine. Tony got him out of there with the Darce. Epic fight. And his other 4 losses are all by decision, and they're all to striking-based fighters. Bobby Green, Drakkar Klose, Mark Giacchese, and David Tamer, who, if you don't remember him, he was fucking awesome. And he actually also beat Drakkar Klose. And Mark Giacchese? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But either way, Lando Vannata, he's been in there with plenty of good fighters, and that's why his record doesn't look as pretty as Zellhuber. Zellhuber, he's got a record of 12-1. The 1 loss comes to Trey Ogden in his last fight, and that was a fight in which, he was just having a hard time dealing with a guy that matched his frame and size, was very tough, and was moving forward. And that's what Trey Ogden was doing. And he was winning a very basic striking battle, but he was winning. And that really surprised me because Zellhuber I had a very high estimation of coming into that fight. Because Zellhuber's Contender Series fight against Lucas Almeida, who has since made a splash in the UFC, knocking out Trizano and whatever the fuck else. But Zellhuber, he was hurt in that fight early on by Lucas Almeida, who's a very dangerous guy. And he was able to survive and take over that fight. And he was the much better man, especially down the stretch, moving very well, very elusively, and totally winning the striking battle. And I thought a lot of him there. And I haven't forgotten that fight. It's just the Trey Ogden fight was, left a shitty taste in my mouth, as I'm sure it did for him too. But still, Zellhuber, he's got a lot of promise. He's only 23 years old. He's got a very nice, big, gigantic frame. And big, gigantic frame, I don't know, whatever. But he's got a very big frame. And I think he can definitely give Lando Vannata some problems. It's certainly on the feet if Lando's just trying to oblige in a pure striking battle. Lando Vannata, he's very slick. He's a very good striker himself, but he's limited. He's not the guy that we thought he was after he knocked out John McDessie and also knocked down Tony Ferguson and whatever. Yeah, he's really slick and he's very skilled, but he's beatable. He's dominable. Again, those losses all come to strikers, and some of them he was never really in it. He was kind of playing catch-up all 3 rounds. And I think in this fight there's a chance that happens. But Lando Vannata, if he's able to get inside and wrestle Zellhuber, if he's able to bully him around and use some of that grappling that Lando has in his back pocket, and we haven't seen since that one submission he has in the UFC, the co-main event over that guy who took the fight on short notice. I forget his fucking name. Either way, it's like the one fight I didn't even look into here before this fight. But that one was the anomaly. Lando pretty much always engages in a striking battle. Here, I'd like to think he's going to mix shit up, and that would make things interesting. But I'm picking against him. I'm picking Daniel Zellhuber. I like what I've seen from him in everything but the Trey Ogden fight. And I don't think Lando Vannata has what it takes to fight that Trey Ogden fight. Again, Trey Ogden is a very limited striker, basic guy. Lando is not limited and not basic, but he's a smaller man, and he typically doesn't march forward. I don't see him stalking. I see him, letting Zellhuber off his back foot. And that alone, I think, makes this a much more winnable fight for Zellhuber. I think if Lando Vannata was a little bigger or just a little more insistent on marching forward, he can put it all together and duplicate that Trey Ogden fighter, some of the success he had there. But I'm picking against Lando Vannata. With all of his skill and everything else, I just think there's a lot of upside with Zellhuber. And I think we're going to see this guy that we saw fight against Lucas Almeida, and especially in rounds 2 and 3, and even towards the end of round 1. And he's going to win this fight. By decision, by the way. I'm not betting on it, though, because the odds are just too tight. Couldn't go either way. It could go either way, and my bet won't go either way. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.